So once again, I welcome you all to this very special 165th session of Leadership Talks. As you know that these sessions are being organized by India International Education Council and School Library Solutions. India International Education Council is a not-for-profit organization which is working in the field of education. It has collaborators from 12 countries. It aims to create a better world through education. Building quality centers for elementary education approachable for all kids is another goal of IAEC. It is also trying to find best educational practices across the globe and find ways to implement those in Indian institutions. It is also creating more awareness on hygiene and learning disabilities. It publishes a magazine called World Education Review and many other educational reports. It aims to build 100 chapters in different cities by 2022. It will soon open its membership for institutions and individuals. It also imparts training for leaders, teachers, students, and parents. As you know that so far we have conducted 164 sessions. This is our 165th session. We have received 20,512 registrations, 19,202 questions on national education policy. We have received participation from 8 countries: India, USA, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Nepal, Kuwait, Russia, and Seychelles. From India, we have received participation from 23 states and 131 cities. We aim to reach out to 100,000 educators through this leadership talk series. With this, we would be reaching out to 20,000 institutions and 1,000 plus eminent speakers like today's speakers would be joining us to share their perspective and ideas on national education policy. With this, I would request you all, please join me in welcoming our key speakers for this very special 165th session of Leadership Talk. Our first key speaker, a very senior education leader of SP Singh sir. SP Singh sir is former principal with Central School for Tibetans, Dehradun, Uttarakhand. He is a senior education leader with decades of experience. He has been the principal for last 11 years. He has also served at different central schools for Tibetans at Odisha and Uttarakhand. He has received many awards and recognition for his contribution to the field of education. We welcome you, SP Singh sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. I'll come back to you for a detailed perspective and opening remark. Our next speaker, another senior education leader, Rajiv Anand ji. Rajiv Anand sir is principal with Sardar Patel Higher Secondary School, Bina, which is a JP Group school, Sagar, Madhya Pradesh. He has done Bachelor of Science in Electronics, B.Ed. He's also done a postgraduate diploma in school leadership and management, also a Master of Science in Physics, MTech, and also done advanced diploma in computer applications, followed by various specialized certification at different fields of information technology. He has almost 4 decades of experience in the field of education. He has worked with many prestigious schools in leadership capability like Jagran Public School, Simraha International School, Sir Padmapat Singhania Education Center, Kanpur, Dr. Virendra Sarup Education Center, Kanpur. His greatest strength include collaborative leadership, strategic planning, empowering educators to develop their leadership and instructional skills. We welcome you, Rajiv sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. I'll come back to you. Our next key speaker, Sarjubala Devi ji. Sarjubala ma'am is principal with Kendriya Vidyalaya Narangi, Guwahati, Assam. She is also the district commissioner, guides for Bharat Scouts and Guides, KVS Guwahati region. As a principal, she has conducted quite a number of activities under her leadership, not only in her own school, but also at the KVS headquarters and regional level. Some of these activities are course director of 10 days induction course for our newly recruited physical and health education teachers from 5 KVS regions in December 2019. Course director of PISA training for science teachers of Guwahati region. She has implemented the concept of BALA, building as learning aid, in her present school, which is one of the KVS initiative. The integration of art in learning is vividly seen, where students also contribute to beautifying the school building along with their art teacher while learning different concepts of art and other subjects. During her career as a teacher, she was selected for the Fulbright Teaching Excellence and Achievement Award. She had stayed in United States of America for 6 weeks, where she had attended academic seminars focusing on teaching methodologies, curriculum development, lesson planning, among others, in Appalachian State University, North Carolina. Welcome you, Sarjubala ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am. I'll come back to you. Our next key speaker, Vipin Jaswalji. Vipin sir is a principal with Doon Valley Cambridge School, Jira, Punjab. He is an MSc Geology and B.Ed. He has total 10 years of teaching experience, including administrator at different in different well-renowned institutions, including JV School, Alampur, Himachal Pradesh, Adarsh Model School, Kamla Nehru Public School, and as a principal in Sarao Public School. We welcome you, Vipin sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, sir. I'll come back to you. Our next key speaker, very senior education leader from higher education world, Dr. Preeti Rishi. Dr. Rishi is associate professor with SRM University, Haryana. She was awarded PhD in 2018. She has done a PhD research on the topic of effect of physical layer impairments on selection of optimal modulation technique for capacity upgrade of optical fiber lengths. She has 2 decades of experience into the field of education. We welcome you, Dr. Rishi. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, ma'am. I'll come back to you. And our last key speaker for this very special session, a very senior EdTech leader, Jaswinder Singh ji. Jaswinder sir is founder and CEO of Wordsworth ELT. He has an experience of 30 years in the field of education and technology and has also served as a consultant to UNESCO on education. Wordsworth English Lab is designed for India and is a highly research initiative of ACT UNIP Group. It is a trusted education company with 2 decades of service in technology, education, and training. Its expertise in technology, multimedia, and content development has been instrumental in presenting a world-class language lab solution for academia in India. In a short span of time, Wordsworth English Language Lab has managed considerable recognition across the country for its unique content and methodology. Over 3,000 installations and institutions across the country stand testimony of the quality in product, implementation, training, and continual service provided by the ACT UNIP and its committed network of leaders. We welcome you, Krishna sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. With this, we come to the end of this first part. To the next part, which is the last part. I would now invite our key speakers one by one for their quick 1-minute opening remarks. So I would request first, SP Singh sir, sir, if you can have your quick 1-minute opening remarks.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. SP Singh, Principal, Central School for Tibetans, Mussoorie. It is managed by Central Tibetan School Administration, New Delhi, under the Ministry of HRD, Department of School Education and Literacy, Government of India. I have been associated with the teaching and learning process for last 32 years almost, across different states, in particular Uttarakhand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So 32 years suggests that you were also the part of education fraternity when the NAS policy was introduced in late 80s. So it would be a wonderful session. We are going to learn a lot of new insights from you, sir. Big thanks for joining. I'll come back to you. I would now request Rajiv Anand sir. Sir, if you can have your opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I am being in education to be about 3 years, out of 7 years as a principal, and worked with the very good renowned education institutes. And I feel that the new education policy is going to be a game changer now in this sector. So let us proceed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Big thanks for joining, sir. We all are very excited with your presence. I would be coming back to you for your detailed perspective. I would now request Sarju Bala ma'am. Ma'am, if we can have your opening remark.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to all. Mr. Rajul Pratap, all key speakers of today's session, and all the participants present. At the very outset, I would like to thank India International Education Council and its partners for giving me this opportunity to take part in this virtual discussion on NEP 2020. This kind of platform is very significant because through this, we can share our views and take home some brilliant ideas generated from such healthy discussions. Since NEP 2020 is a relatively new concept, it needs a lot of brainstorming, especially among the school leaders. because we are the ones who are working at the grassroots level. So when we are clear about the objectives and the goals, then only we'll be able to implement it successfully. So I'm really looking forward to an exciting session with all the learned and the experienced and distinguished members. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. We also hope for the same. Sarjuvala ma'am, big thanks for joining. I would be coming back to you for detailed perspective. Now, I would request Vipin sir, sir, if you can have your opening remark. Sir, you are on mute.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thanks and for giving this opportunity to me. The last time I was not able to connect, so I feel sorry for that. But this time, I definitely want to be a part of this session, and I feel that these kind of sessions, they are very much informative, and this is the platform where we connect with the persons from the different places, different states, and obviously we are having the different mindset. So with this kind of healthy interaction, we came to know about the what kind of the problems we are having and how we can implement this effectively so that we can get the good results. So I hope that it will be a great session for all of us and having a great learning for them. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with your presence, I'm sure this is going to be a very, very exciting and great session. Big thanks for participation. I would come back to you. I would now request Dr. Preeti Rishi. Dr. Rishi, if we can have your opening remark. Preeti ji, you are on mute. I would request Jaswinder sir, sir, if we can have your opening remark.
Yeah, thank you, Rajuji, and good afternoon, everybody. I come from the field of education technology, and we work with a lot of schools, including the Tibetan school. We're working with Kendriya Vidyalaya and a lot of private schools. My focus is going to be on two major things. One is technology. How do we achieve the mammoth goals that have been put forward by NEP 2020 using technology? How can we achieve them without actually worrying about how to go about it? And the second part is I'm going to talk about languages. NEP 2020 has now come up that we need to use the local language of the mother tongue to teach during the early foundation years. What should happen? What can be done? How is English going to be impacted? Whether it's going to be impacted or not? That's what I'm going to discuss in the. So my major focus is going to be on technology and language, the use of language in teaching. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaswinder sir. That's very important area, and we would like to learn more insights from you on these two important areas. Big thanks for participation. I would come back to you.
Yes,
And
sir.
now,
I was not able to hear at that
yeah,
time. I think
Dr.
you were
Rishi has
calling
joined us
me.
back. Preeti ji, please.
Yes, sir. So first of all, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to participate in this program and gain information from all the learned speakers that we have here. So in the continued series of our program, say that today's talk from my side, I will be focusing on the importance of coding in our education system. So as we all know that coding from 6th class has been made as a mandatory part of the new policy. So what all advantages it has to offer, and it has been a very right decision in the right direction. So in my talk, I would be highlighting the importance of coding for our students and how it will be helpful to them to get a good employment in the future. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Rishi, for joining and sharing your wisdom on at this very important topic. There's a buzzword in today's time. Big thanks for participation. Big thanks once again to all the key speakers for sharing your opening remarks. With this, we come to the next part of the session, which is the main talk part. I would now invite all our speakers one by one for the detailed perspective. But before I invite, our first speaker, I must share the learnings which we have had during our last 164 sessions. During our last 164 sessions, almost every participant shared that this is a wonderful document. And this document has a potential to place India at that coveted position of Vishwa Gyan Guru. At the same time, same number of participants shared that this is a very ambitious document and going to be very, very difficult to execute. Many people shared the example of CCE. It was also a beautiful document, good initiative, but got failed due to poor execution. Many educators shared that teachers training is going to be a key concern area. Many believe, yes, teachers training is a big concern area, but the bigger concern area would be lack of intent and motivation among teachers to get trained. Many people said finance is going to be a key concern area. Many senior educators said that, good schools in urban areas already implementing many of the ideas suggested by NEP. So the biggest challenge would be for rural schools, budget schools, and government schools. Many people also shared their assessment that this pandemic has exposed the poor infrastructure of poor distribution of digital infrastructure, and that is going to be another big challenge. So I would request all our key speakers that while sharing your perspective, if you can also suggest some ideas, some best practice which you have been implementing in your institution, that would make this session more engaging, more useful for all of us, and we all can learn from each other. So with this, I would also request you all, please keep the time limit of 10 minutes per speaker so that we have sufficient time in the end for the questions. So I would now request with this first speaker, SP Singh sir, SP Singh sir, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. I feel that this platform, I have been given the chance to speak and share my views and to unplug the National Education Policy 2020. My focus is particularly on the holistic development of the personality of the child. When we are talking of the holistic development of the personality of the child, is that we have to move away from the culture of rote learning. We have to see that the comprehension part of the teaching, whether students are comprehending or not, and we have to focus on how to make them learn. That is love to learning. We speak love to learning to that. We have to keep in mind what are the skills and the set of values set for the 21st century we have to equip the students with. But before that, in the background, I would like to say that what are the universal access to education? Universal access to education, because this is the first part of the new education policy. When we go for the modification for 10+2 structure, with the structure of 5+3+3+4 structure. So we have to see that what is in the background of this universal access to education. We have seen that, I would like to mention here the National University of Educational Planning and Administration. There is a consortium for research on access, education, transition, and equity. I would like to repeat it. Access, transition, and equity. It means all the strata of the society, all the children from all the strata of the society, they are getting the opportunity for education. We know that in 1950, when our constitution was implemented, there was a provision that our students, that our children in the age group of 6 to 14 should get compulsory and free education. Further, the same thing was strengthened in 2002, when the education for this group was made as a fundamental right. Fundamental right. So we have to see that ours, we show that by now, where we have reached now. Whether all the children from the society, not only from the richest or the better of sections, from the disadvantaged groups, girls, poorer sections, OBCs, other backward classes, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, I mean, irrespective of the caste, creed, all that, they are getting education or not? What is that status with us now? In the light of that, we need to improve ourselves. When we unplug this, what are the provisions contained in this National Policy on Education 2020? We have to see to that. We can see that there are only 3 platforms. This is National Policy on Education 1986. 1986, National Policy Education. Then again, we have 5-year plans. 5-year plans where the provisions are made for the policies, administration, financial frameworks for the government-funded schools. Government-funded schools, which I say that 91% of the government schools, they are the education providers to this group. Other than these, we have the private schools, we have the public schools which are providing education to this group. And the question comes that National Policy on Education and further the program of action, that is 1992. The children, irrespective of caste, color, creed, get education. That is, I say, foundational education. Are we focusing on the foundational education? Because in the previous policy, we can see that the children from 0 to 6 were not covered. I'm talking of the preschool education. I'm talking of the pre-primary education. I'm talking of the other education that we call it as alternative and innovative education or educational guarantee programs that have been run by the government. These programs have been run by the government for the children of the slums in the big cities or metropolitan cities. So, up to what extent this section has been covered? I mean, that is age, we were only providing 6 to 14. 6 to 14, and this section was left out, 0 to 6. But in the new education policy, we can see that we are modifying this 10+2 structure with 5+3+3+4 system. It means 3 to 6. 3 to 6 part has been taken care of. What we can call it as early childhood care and education, that is ECCE, early childhood care and education. It means, so foundational learning, whether it is the learning of numeracy, learning of the language, development of the communication, socio-emotional culture, and other sort of the culture that has very, very vital role to play for the students and for the retention as well. When we go to the upper primary section as well as for the secondary and then senior secondary sections, that has been taken care of. So this modification, what are the provisions of this modifications we can do with? Are we ready for that early childhood care and education for that? Previously, we were having Anganwadis. Anganwadis, those who were taking care of the nutritional health as well as education of this group, that is 0 to 6. But this was not the part of that education 6 to 14, because we are only sure of the 6 to 14. 6 to 14. That is, I'd like to say that is only 1 to 5 and 6, 7, 8. These 3, I mean 6 to 8, these 8 classes were taken care of. Further, are we sure that is the retention? If we talk of the retention power, retention, I'd like to say 15% students, they drop out when they reach class 5. Further, 15 students, they drop out when they reach class 8. Where the fact is that we have no retention policy. No retention policy. It means automatic promotion. Automatic promotion was have been granted to the students up to class 8. It is very, very much clear. But still, we are not able to see that our students, they are moving further to the higher education, to the secondary classes and senior secondary classes. This has. So early childhood care and education, this is the foundational learning, and it has to be taken care of as per the policy 2020. This policy is coming after a gap of 36 years almost. So this universal provision for quality education at this stage is a very, very fundamental and very, very important at this stage. I'm sure that if this part has been taken care of, we are sure that our students, our children can move further to the education, that is primary education, and then upper primary education, and then further is that one. So what are the provisions are being made in that? When implemented for that is, we have to see that. Overall aim of CCE, ECCE, not CCE, ECCE, that is early childhood care and education, is optimal outcomes. Optimal outcomes and minimal input. Minimal input should be there, and optimum result-oriented should be there. Socio-economic, ethnicity, development of the culture, artistic development, and the development of the communication, as well as the development of the language, literacy, as well as numeracy. So we have to see to that part is all that is. Now, national curriculum and pedagogical structure, national curriculum and pedagogical framework, for the early childhood care and education has to be developed by NCERT. NCERT is responsible for that. We have to see that. Then, what are the agencies? What is the system? What is the expansion or strengthening system for undertaking this task? Anganwadi stand alone. Preschools stand alone. Anganwadi is co-located with the primary schools and pre-primary schools covering the age that is 5 to 6. 5 to 6, co-located with the primary schools. So this is the system that will undertake this childhood care and education for that is, and what further provisions have been made. That also need to be taken into account for that is. All of the above, we have to train our Anganwadis, workers, and teachers for that. And they should be well trained in the ECCE so that our students can be benefited. We can minimize the dropout rate. We can also go for the retention for the further classes as well. Which are the ministries involved in this one? We have to see that part also. Because we can say that this is the concerted efforts, not only the policy makers, but those who are implementing it, those who are the stakeholders, those who are socially responsible for that is. We have to see that part also, that it's okay. So all these parts is Ministry of Tribal Affairs, Ministry of HRD, Ministry of Women and Child Development, Ministry of Women and Health. All these ministries will undertake this task for the further strengthening of our early childhood care and education, that is foundational learnings. If you are further talking of the system that is 4 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, this system we have to see that age group that is 3 to 6 plus 2 years of the primary sections, these have to be covered under this one lot. That is up to 8 years. And thereafter, 4th, 5th, and third, 4th, and 5th classes covered, that is age group up to 11 years. And thereafter, we move to the secondary stage and the senior secondary stage. So in this way, we can put our heads together and better implementation can be ensured for the betterment of the universal access to education for all the age groups. So I'm highly thankful to the this Council of Education for giving me the chance to share my views on access to education. I'm sure that this move will definitely benefit our society, our children, and will strengthen our education system in the years to come. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, SP Singh sir, for sharing these valuable inputs and highlights of the National Education Policy. You began by highlighting and sharing your assessment that NEP has a potential to take us away from that formal rote learning based education system. You also talked about that NEP's emphasis upon 21st century skills for learners is highly laudable. You also talked about that NEP is making a very strong attempt to provide education to all, and the emphasis of this NEP on ECC, early childcare education, is very good, and it is going to create huge impact. You also highlighted the problem of dropouts and how it is affecting our entire system. And in the end, you called upon everyone involved, and you said without giving proper training and empowering our workforce, be it formal teachers or Anganwadi workers, we cannot achieve the successful execution of this policy. So we need to be, cautious about that particular area. So big thanks, SP Singh sir, for sharing these important points. I would come back to you with questions, sir. Thank you. Thank you. And now I would request Rajiv Anand sir, sir, if you can have your ideas in detail. Rajiv Anand sir, over to you. Rajiv sir, you are on mute.
Yeah. Hello, everyone again. And whatever I'm right now, I'm going to speak up, and it will be the most of the same topic that Mr. Singh sir has spoke right now. But some of the things I want to emphasize on is how this NEP is going to be a game changer, some lacks and some challenging issues. As a principal, we most of the time when we just go through the education policies, previous it was also I was being also in the implementing phase. I have seen and implemented also. So there were also some of the challenges that we have faced, and just to find out the solution for that. But what I feel that if I start begin with, I want to begin with the policies, the pre-independence and post-independence scenarios. The thing is that in the pre-part, obviously, we don't have any contribution in deciding the policies. We don't have any contribution, or even I can say the right to decide, or the group I can say analyze the facts. Only the Britishers were the part. They want to implement their policies that they were following over there, and they want to see the policies in our country, in this country also. So I don't want to go in deep of that, but from after independence, I want to say that the first in 1948, the Dr. Radhakrishnan, obviously we celebrate the day, and Dr. Radhakrishnan was being given the charge of University Education Commission. 52, we have Lakshman Swami Mudaliar Committee, who has given the responsibility of establishing the secondary education. So this secondary education from 1952 has traveled or has completed, or just I can say this journey up to 2020. So 64, we have DS Kothari, the Education Commission. Again, it was formed to enhance, analyze, and just find out the issues that require to be changed or to modify in the education system. Some of the points were added and some were eliminated. 1968, announcement of the National Education Policy, and 86, it was being implemented. National Education Policy, the first one. In 1992, again, Professor Yashwal Committee was being established and given the responsibility for the modification of previous National Education Policy, and CCE, which was the result of that. And then Dr. Subramaniam Committee has also given the report for the modification. Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan committee report, and on the basis of this report, that of Dr. Kasturiarangan, National Education Policy 2020 was being declared. So this policy that has been defined, they have completed their job. Now the second part I want to say will be of the implementation, and I feel that implementation phase is more complex than the designing phase. So what I want to say, what a child think of, what a parent think of a good education policy or a good education institution. There are various different I can say the points that we daily we ask the parents that what you see in a good education, what you feel, what you want, what you expect from us. So some of the points that I want to say is that they say where a wide range of learning experiences are offered, a variety, not limited, unlimited. They say every student feels like a welcome and cared of, where a safe and stimulating environment exists, and where good physical infrastructure. Obviously, now we are in a competition of this, where good and physical infrastructure and appropriate resources are available to all the students. So among all the institutions right now in India are now competing in providing these 4 points. Now attaining these qualities, I feel, must be the goal of every educational institution. But at the same time, there must also be seamless integration and coordination across institutions and across all stages of education. So in this policy, the curricular and pedagogical sector of the school education has to be reconfigured to make it responsive and relevant to the developmental needs and interests of the learners at different stages of their development. As in this policy, it is being divided into various age ranges, 3 to 8, 8 to 11, 11, 14, and 14 to 18. Whatever the ranges be there, I feel the learning should be holistic, integrated, enjoyable, and engaging. I think that on the top of all is enjoyable. I want to talk about the vision of education policy right now. The education system that contributes to an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality of education to all. It develops a deep sense of respect towards the fundamental rights, duties, and constitutional values bonding with one's country, and conscious awareness of one's role and responsibilities in a changing world. It also instills skills. Obviously, the skills directly being connected to the society, values that support responsible commitment to human rights, sustainable development, and living. A global well-being which reflects a truly global citizen. So I want to compare here the existing academic structure which we were following, in which the new concept which is being introduced, which is the early childhood care, was lacking in the existing academic structure, which was not being, some of the schools, the missionaries and some of the schools have introduced on their own. But in the government policies, they have no such policy that they have some structure for early childhood care. Schools were implementing, but government or the government organizations have now not such a type of a structure which can be there to implement for schools. Now, in this part, there is a difference that they have focused, basic focus, or I can say the major focus is on early childhood, which they have provided 3 years and given the name Anganwadi or Balvatika for the age 3 to 6, and 2 years for class 1 to 2 or in the age of 6 to 8. Second, I can say the structure, part of the structure was of 10 years in the existing one. 10 years, a big range was being covered. Now it is being divided into 2 parts, 3 plus 3. In the first 3, from class 3 to 5, age 8 to 11, and the second one 3 years, class 6 to 8, and age 11 to 14. So what I feel that this is a good decision, and it will be a game changer. All these things are going to be very being towards a positive direction that will impact the education system of India. The last is being provided the 4 years in the form of secondary. Now see, the early childhood, they have provided the fundamental, then preparatory, then middle and secondary. The higher secondary, what we call it, is an the word higher they will be used for graduation, post-graduation. The higher secondary, the word is removed, and they have just introduced only secondary. They made it up to secondary. So the new pedagogical structure of school education, 3 years for Anganwadi, secondary stage, multidisciplinary, greater critical thinking, flexible and student choice of subjects, experimental learning in sciences, mathematics, arts, social sciences, and humanities, preparatory stage, play, discovery, and activity-based and interactive classroom learning. Foundation, multi-level, play, activity-based. Nothing that is not been defined. Any type of bookish learning, rote learning, or that type of learning. Only they have a type of but I can explore the things to be explored, learning, exploring. Now the thing is that what they have done, they have focused on, I think, the quality then quantity. That's why they have reduced the curriculum, and the core essential they made it curriculum in all subjects to be reduced. Critical thinking focuses on critical thought, inquiry, discovery, discussion, analysis, teaching and learning methods for holistic education, interactive learning with reduced dependency on textbook learning. They have to come out of the textbooks now. They have to explore by asking the questions from the students, and on the basis of that, the promotion will be applied. Experimental learning, fun, creative, collaborative, and explanatory activities. Classroom for experimental purposes, learning and deeper exploring the subject, I can say. Next is the innovative pedagogy, transforming teaching learning process. Experimental learning, integrated pedagogy, promotion of peer tutoring, equal weightage, bagless days. Yes, this is the, I feel, the I favor this point, bagless days. Right now, this concept is not being introduced, and I have no knowledge that any of the school has also implemented out of this before this education policy. Now, can we imagine when a child is being called that tomorrow you have to come without bag? So how it will be, what will be the feeling of that child that without bag, how it is possible? Then we will tell that tomorrow you are going to learn without bag. Learning without bag, how is it possible? So learning is very important. It's not limited up to bag only. It's not limited up to books only. We can learn out of that also. Use and integration of technology, especially in the classes after 6 to 12. Next we have is examination, how it will be conducted in grade 1 to 8. Key stage assessments, achievement of critical thinking, moving away from rote learning, and results of the school examination. Multi-language and power of language learning. Yes, here the things are not clear because it's very difficult to implement a single class bilingual when we teach bilingual. Multilingual, how it's possible? So we are waiting for the more details about it, because multilingualism in the classroom, in one classroom, is how it's to be conducted and how it's to be implemented. It's not an easy job, because we have to appoint very different teachers for different to teach different languages. So we are waiting for this, how it will be possible, how it will be implemented.
Right.
So these were some of the points that I want to say. And thank you, sir, for providing time. I think I have crossed my limit.
Thank you, Rajiv sir, for sharing these, very valuable insights and your interpretation on national education policy. You began by highlighting your assessment that NEP is going to be a game changer, with various proposals. But you also, cautioned that execution is going to be key. You talked about that, today we have infrastructure is available in comparison with the previous policies. You also talked about this NEP is going to make learning far more engaging. You also talked about how NEP is encouraging learners to explore. It is giving weightage to their curiosity. You also talked about that by reducing curriculum, the focus has come to the quality, not on quantity. You also talked about good initiatives which is being proposed in NEP like bagless days and how they are going to create impact. In the end, you also talked about that multi-language may create challenge, and we need to train our teachers for that. And today we have Jaswinder Singh sir, who is an expert, who is an authority from the language world. I'm sure he would be sharing more details on that. So big thanks, Rajiv Anand sir, for sharing these important points. I would come back
Thank
to you
you.
with questions. Thank you, sir. And now I would invite and request Sarjubala ma'am, ma'am, if we can have your detailed perspective.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good afternoon once again, everyone. I have prepared a PPT. I'll just share it. So today I'm going to talk about why literacy and numeracy, expectations, impact, implementation, and shaping the strategy. Whatever my previous speakers have said, we are all these topics are related, quite related. So whatever they have touched, I may repeat again. So what are the universal objectives of this foundational literacy and numeracy? Foundational literacy and numeracy, I have shortened it as FLN, which is a very, very important topic nowadays. These objectives are making the learners competent in doing meaningful reading and writing by the time they enter grade 3, developing the basic understanding and competencies related to numeracy and its related concepts among young learners till grade 2, and developing skills among the learners to amalgamate their outside school experiences in their classroom learning to attain foundational literacy and numeracy in a better way. So what is this foundational literacy and numeracy? It is the ability to read, write, and comprehend basic text, and the ability to carry out basic operations like additions and subtractions with numerals. So why do we need FLN? The primary education is the first stage of formal education where an individual acquires the necessary ability to read and write and perform basic operations with numbers. So it is the basis for the future school life as well as the adult life. Hence, FLN is essential and indispensable prerequisite, nurturing competent individuals and building strong nation. Now, why literacy and numeracy? Surveys, like governmental as well as non-governmental organizations, they have conducted surveys, and these surveys have indicated that A large proportion of the students currently in the elementary school, estimated to be over 5 crore, have not attained the foundational literacy and numeracy. If action is not taken soon, over the next few years, we could lose 10 crore or more students from the learning system to illiteracy. So this is again cut out from the newspaper. This is the annual status of education report, SER 2018, by an NGO Pratham. So you can see here the basic maths level remained very low in standard 8. More than half of the children, they are struggling with basic mathematical operation division. And if we look at the surveys in classes 6 to 8 in 2014, 16, and 18, you can see in class 6, the level is just a little above 30%, means they can solve, only a little more than 30% can solve division. And in class 7, a little above 35%, and in class 8, a little above 40%. So more than half or more than 50%, they are not able to do this division. And we have this gender disparity also. The boys can do maths, they have more maths capability as compared to the girls, according to this survey. And in class 8, the percentage of students who can read textbook of class 2 level, reading literacy, here again, just see the trend. From 2008, it has gone downwards. In 2018, it has gone downwards. There may be factors, but we are not going into that. But we will see what are the remedies. So this is really alarming that a child of class 8 cannot read class 2 level, textbook. In class 5, again, the learning level has improved since 2016, but it is not at the desired level. So children of class 5 who can read class 2 level, that is just 50.3%, and children who can do division in class, class 5, that is just 27.8%. So these figures are really alarming. Then according to an NCERT survey, 43% of class 5 students scored 35% or less in reading comprehension, and only 11% got 75% or more. Just an example of the reading comprehension here. These are simple. If you look at it, if you read it and if you understand it, you can easily answer the question. But unfortunately, our class 5 students, majority, in 64% of the children did not answer this question correctly because they don't have the foundational literacy. Then another, in the same survey, in maths, 37% students scored between 0 to 35%, 26% scored between 36 and 50%, and only 10% scored higher than 75%. So if you look at this question, this is again a simple question, but students of class 5 who were surveyed, only 44% students could answer this question correctly. So these are alarming. And again, there is a term which is called the learning poverty. The World Bank terms the phenomenon of being unable to read and understand a simple text by the age of 10 as learning poverty. Children who are not able to read by the age of 10 usually find it challenging to grasp their ability to read in the later years of their schooling. Without foundational learning, children often fail to flourish in their later years as they don't acquire the required human capital needed to empower them in their future, in their careers. So let's come to the remedies. What are the curricular expectations according to the NEP in order to develop this FLN, or the foundational literacy and numeracy? So we have the curriculum expectations here. The pedagogy, as the previous speakers have said already, they should be changed, and they should include stress-free, playway, and experiential activities. Resources, locally developed, they should be locally developed as per national guidelines so that The material is contextual, and the assessment should be formative and adaptive. Then literacy should include reading with comprehension, writing with understanding, speaking with coherent thought. Then the mathematical thinking should include numeracy, number sense, spatial understanding. So the curriculum should be developed based on all these topics. Then what is this foundational literacy? I have already mentioned about it. It refers to the skills and strategies involved in reading, speaking, writing, and interpreting one's thoughts. Literacy helps the students apply reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills across a variety of subject areas. Then foundational numeracy includes competence counting. They should be able to count. And then they should be able to understand about numbers, and they should have the ability to develop number sense. Then they should develop mathematical thinking, and they should be able to apply the basic operations on the numbers for problem solving. Like children can do 1 + 2 = 3, but when they are asked to solve it, then maybe they will not be able to do. If they have 1 apple in one hand and 2 apples in the other hand, and if they say how many apples do you have, then maybe they will be able to answer 3. But if they are asked 1 + 2 = what, maybe they will not be able to answer because they think that is a different thing. So that kind of fear is also there, fear for the numbers. So that kind of fear should be taken out from the children. And there is this integration of literacy and numeracy. Means literacy and numeracy go side by side. They cannot go alone. So the mathematical terminology is a part of the daily language. Unknowingly, children use a lot of mathematical language, but when they are asked to solve it, maybe they started having this fear. So the use of language in understanding mathematical ideas, and a language for disposition of mathematical thinking. Then there is precise communication, language with mathematical ideas. So it's not that you are able to do maths, but you are not able to understand the question, then they are not able to do the maths. So means the report which we had seen before, that is because they lack understanding of the question. So literacy and numeracy should be developed together. Now we have this ELBS approach. E for experience with physical objects. Children should first experience what is there in their surroundings, and then the L means spoken language that describes the experience. They should be able to speak out whatever the experience they had experienced. And P, the pictures that represent the experience. Means when they see the physical objects in front of their eyes, in their surroundings, they should be able to relate what is written in their books, or the pictures which are there in the books. And we have S, these are the written symbols that generalize the experience. So then only they will come to the symbols which generalize the experience. So it's the other way around now. Children open the book, they see pictures and the symbols, and then they mug up, they recite whatever they know, but they can't relate it to the physical objects surrounding them. So that has to be changed. So first they have to experience the physical objects, then they should relate it to their books. So what are the impact of the foundational literacy and numeracy? Developing foundational skills is a complex issue as there are a large number of factors that impact a child's ability to learn. We have gender, race, place of birth, or the social and economic conditions of the family. All these will lead to wide disparity of children's capabilities and levels of exposure. Then providing children with foundational skills in the early years ensures that all students, regardless of their socioeconomic background, are given opportunity to perform well in schools and are better prepared to improve their quality of life. It can also increase workforce participation and open up opportunities for social and economic advancement, increased employability, and higher GDP. So there are many educated or literate people, youth in our country, but they are not employable. So if they have this foundational literacy and numeracy, that problem will be solved. Now, implementation and shaping of strategies. The mission, we have a mission that is to achieve FLN by all grade 3 students by the year 2025. We have got just 4 years. To translate this vision under the Atmanirbhar Bharat program, a national initiative for proficiency in reading with understanding and numeracy, the Pun Bharat program will be launched. Then accordingly, all state government or the UT governments will immediately prepare an implementation plan in all primary schools, identifying stage-wise targets and goals, closely tracking and monitoring progress of the same. So first, we have a teacher vacancy and the parent-teacher ratio. This needs to be catered to. The teacher's vacancy will be filled at the earliest in a time-bound manner, especially in the disadvantaged areas, in areas with large pupil-to-teacher ratios or high rates of illiteracy. So special attention will be given to employing local teachers or those with familiarity with local languages. So a PTR of under 30:1 will be ensured. And especially in areas where we have socioeconomically disadvantaged students, we can aim under 25:1. So the role of teacher at the elementary level is very important. Teachers should focus on the pedagogical process which are best suited to the children at the elementary level. Examples like arts, puppet, toys, and music, integrated learning, and practical educational gains. Teacher education and the early grade curriculum will be redesigned to have a renewed emphasis on foundational literacy and numeracy. Now, peer tutoring, the previous speaker has already said about it. One-to-one peer tutoring is extremely effective for learning, not just for the learner, but also for the tutor. It can be taken as a voluntary and joyful activity for fellow students under the supervision of trained teacher. Every literate member of the community could commit to teaching one student how to read. It would change the entire country's landscape very quickly. And health and nutrition is also very crucial in foundational years. Regular health checkup and health card should be there. We should boost the mental and physical health. Then they should be given energizing breakfast in addition to midday meal. When in an empty stomach, nothing will go. So the health and nutrition is very important. And another important aspect is the assessment. We have to have assessment, adaptive as well as formative. And the goal is not to compare the children, but to reward them for their learning, to motivate them. Informative assessment, it is for the school system to understand, or it is for the teacher to understand where the child stands and what more he or she needs for the learning process. So we should be catering to the needs of the child. So there are different resources we have nowadays. So I will just wind up fast. And these are the action points. Last one, curriculum revamping is needed. Then pedagogical innovations, it is also required now. Then restructuring of teacher education programs, then revisiting assessment and administrative support. So we as leaders of school, we should be academic leaders as well as the administrative leaders. So we should lend the support to our teachers for giving their best to their students.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarjuvala ma'am, for sharing these very, very important points. You actually, presented a template of this NEP, the kind of challenges we have, the kind of solutions, we can look for. You began by highlighting the poor status of learning outcome at different level. And you shared a lot of examples, those examples, be it NCERT, survey on reading comprehension or mathematics capability of our students, highlight the poor status of learning outcomes. And then you also talked about the term of learning poverty. And that is very correctly explained by those international standards. You also talked about those curricular expectations which we should have from our 21st century curriculum, be it, in the field of pedagogy, which must be stress-free, resources, the more utilization of localized resources. You also talked about we need to have the formative adapted assessment. You also talked about the foundation numeracy, the challenges and the kind of suggestions we should go for. You also talked about why we need to integrate literacy and numeracy. You also talked about that ELPS approach, experience, language, picture, symbols. You explained that approach. Apart from FLN, you also talked about we need to improve our teacher-learner ratio, and you suggested various ways how we can do that. Then you also talked about the role of teacher at elementary level and the importance of peer tutoring, health and nutrition in our education, peer assessment. And in the last part, you explained those action points which we all must follow as an educator. So big thanks, Sarjubala ma'am, for sharing these very, very important points with all of us. I would come back to you with questions. Thank you, ma'am. And now I would request Vipin Jaswal sir, Vipin sir, if we can have your detailed perspective.
Yes, sir. So today, talk about the inclusive learning and flexibility in choosing the career options, the streams that we are going to choose with this holistic development, integrated approach, enjoyable and engaging. These are the topics that I'm going to cover. So first of all, I think that this NEP, the National Education Policy 2020, is nowadays, I feel that there's a need to change in our education system entirely. And for that point of view, this national education policy is very effective. And the part where I'm concerned, its implementation is very important, because if something that we have a plan, its execution and implementation is very, very important. Only then we can be succeed in that particular we are talking about. So this NEP, the purpose and the agenda of this national education policy to enable or to make the human beings or the child a capable learner, create them to develop their scientific temper, to compete them globally. That is the main agenda. We are lacking everywhere. We are talking about, we are working on this and that, but in real fact, where we are standing, we all know that in our education system, there are a lot of changes they are required. And I hope that with the implementation of this national education policy, definitely will achieve all those goals. So if I'm talking about SDG goal number 4, Sustainable Development Goal, that is the Global Educational Developmental Agenda. And including this, the purpose of this to provide the education for all. So I am very much happy that I am going to cover all these topics, that inclusive learning. Where I'm concerned about this inclusive learning, where we have to design our curriculum in keeping in mind, in the classroom, there are the different mindset. That I'm talking about the children or the students, they are having their different mindset. Some of them are gifted students, some of them are the ordinary or the normal students. So with this, we are going to plan an effective curriculum we have to design, where we have to keep all these things in our mind, so that we are making this curriculum to develop the holistic development for the holistic development. Second, we have to integrate this system with the art integration, so that our students and the learners, they can enjoy rather than to make rote learning. The purpose is to make the learning enjoyable. Second, and the third important point is that to engage. If we are planning and framing the curriculum, we also have to keep this thing in mind, that in a classroom there are different mindsets, means they're having the different capabilities and they're having learning differences may be there. So our curriculum should be designed in such a way so that we can engage all the students at a single platform. So this can be good in this part. Second is flexibility in choosing the career and the career choosing the courses. While we are in our previous system, in a working as a principal, I have seen that most of the time we are concerned with the students, their capabilities, students, their uh, choices, their learning interest. We are just with you can go for the medical stream. We are giving you the medical stream. We are giving you the art stream. We are giving you the commerce streams. We are not concerned with that interest. The students, they're having the interest in physics, they're having the interest in chemistry, they're having the different interest. So this can be good with this part, that we have designed this curriculum according to the interest of the child. If someone is not having any interest, but still my father is a doctor, I have to take the medical stream, I don't have any concern that student or that child is having interest in that stream or not. So again, the flexibility in choosing the courses means we have to explain the each and every courses that we have available for the students, and after that we have to consult them, we have to find their interest, and after that definitely we have to assign the tag, we have to give the particular course according to their interest. Then next to this is the usage of technology. The usage of technology, this is also the one of the most important factor nowadays. We are hopefully we all know that coding and all these coding CCS, that is computational coding system, which is very, very effective, and maybe in the 21st century, this is the demanding course, and our CBSE also has introduced this in our curriculum. So some of the schools, they are implementing, and definitely we are also going with this part coding. So with the usage of technology, we are also improving our educational standards, because the usage of this CC coding, where we are teaching to our learners, to our kids, how to develop the particular what we call the app, how it's functioning and how it's operational, means how to operate all these. So when a kid or the student, when they are able to learn all these things at the very basic levels, with the passage of time, the student and that particular child will be able to learn and develop its own technology. If we are talking about the foreign countries, the students and the having their own technologies, they are developing their own apps. So we are also working on the same age, but I feel that we are far behind from that countries. We are also lacking behind in all the aspect, but still we are struggling and fighting for this. We are on the track, but still need its effective implementation, and implementation is done through such a platform that we are here to discuss, that how we can make all these things in very innovative ideas. We'll bring the innovative idea and their implementation in the our education system. So with this, we can also uh, see that and can have a lot of changes in our education system. This is all about that I want to discuss and share.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Vipin sir, for sharing these important points. You began by highlighting how this NEP is focusing upon inclusive learning. And then you also talked about that, document is very good, but implementation and execution is going to be key. You also talked about the need, why we need curriculum that needs to be developed for holistic learning, holistic education, where learners must enjoy learning. They must be engaged with that enjoyable process. You also talked about the importance of technology and why we need to embrace the use of technology. And in the end, you again called upon all the educators that we need concerted and collaborative effort for the successful execution of this policy. So big thanks, Vipin sir, for participating and sharing these important ideas. I would come back to you with questions.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I'll come back to you. And now with this, I would request our speaker from higher education, Dr. Preeti Rishi. Dr. Rishi, if we can have your ideas. Preeti ji, do we have your presence? I would request Jaswinder, sir, if we can have your ideas in detail.
Yeah, thank you, Rajulji, and thank you all the previous speakers. Wonderful session, a lot of insight, and Sarjubala ma'am, a very beautiful PowerPoint presentation. I'm impressed. I would request if you could share them with all of us so that we can use it somewhere. Thank you so much. Coming on to the point, since I told you in the beginning that I'm going to focus on